Hey there, how's it going? Cat up here. Today we're going to talk about the Changeling Race as presented in the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, although I will touch a little upon what little lore there is from previous editions as well. Changelings are natural shapeshifters able to take the form of any medium-sized humanoid as long as that humanoid is the same arrangement and number of limbs and extremities. However, changelings do have a natural form that's rarely shown, as it looks sort of like a Roswell alien decided to go for a mix of goth and glam rock. The natural form of the changeling is a humanoid that's even slimmer and more lithe than an elf, with extremely pale skin and white hair that can sometimes have some shadings of blonde, silver, or even some other pastel colors. It's assumed the glitter and overly tight pants are just a given. They have large, solid white eyes that are ringed in a natural black line, like the makeup of an edgy 16-year-old girl whose parents just don't get that Jimmy with the motorcycle really is a sweet guy and it really truly is love. Mom. Where changelings come from isn't entirely known. They have no written history, and no other race can really say for sure when or where changelings became a thing. What is generally agreed upon is that changelings are likely a mix of human and doppelganger parentage. This is because a changeling really does feel like a doppelganger that's been watered down with the toxic sewage waste that is the human bloodline. Damn it, humans, is there anything you won't have sex with? Changelings live about the same lifespan as a human does, although they actually reach full maturity closer to the age of 14 or 15. Changelings don't really have a society of their own. Instead, they usually blend in with the society around them by taking an appropriate form or adopting one or more identities. The closest thing to any changeling cultural identities are the 3 main philosophies the changelings hold towards their shapeshifting abilities. First are the passers, who prefer to adopt a primary or core identity and rarely leave that form for their true form or even that of another humanoid. These ones are sometimes scorned by other members of their race because of their unwillingness to use their abilities. Secondly are the becomers. These are the changelings that embrace their shape-shifting powers and are constantly changing and shifting to new forms and identities. It's not unusual for becomers to take on several identities in a society they live in, leading double, triple, or even more complex multi-leveled lives. When among friends, becomers will often shift repeatedly to represent attitude and emotional state in the same way an elderly Italian used car salesman might use dramatic hand gestures. Thirdly, and much more rarely, are the seekers. These take almost the opposite approach to the passers and rarely leave their natural form. They have a detest of the innate deception that stereotypes most of their race and prefer to live naturally among other changelings. The changeling people throughout most of Eberron are generally mistrusted by the common folk, not because of what the changelings do, but rather because of what the changelings could possibly do and what they are. If cars and state troopers were a thing in Eberron, changelings would be constantly pulled over just because they were driving while looking suspicious. It's not uncommon for changelings to be used in some of the more nefarious lines of work, due to their abilities and, of course, cultural intolerance. Work such as spies, assassins, trailer park repo men, etc. Many changelings manage to find more acceptable work as diplomats and performers, although they could theoretically fit anywhere in society if they're careful. The one area that changelings are almost always welcomed into society is in the continent of Sarlona. The Empire of Redris sees the potential in changelings for their abilities and welcomes them. It does, however, come at a cost, since these changelings must go through training to strip them of their individuality and to be of maximum use by the Inspired. Who the Inspired of Redris are will be left for another video, but let's just say that although it looks welcoming and hopeful, it's not a good choice. Changelings normally prefer subtlety and stealth to direct confrontation. If it came to a fight, most changelings would prefer to flee and wait to attack from this stealth, or just bide their time and manipulate the circumstances to their benefit. There really isn't that much else to say about changelings in Eberron. Unfortunately, they don't really have much of a past. They have basically no culture of their own, and they really do sort of just blend in with whoever they're around. Well, I hope you learned a little bit about changelings for your Eberron campaign. Have a good one, eh?